Just being honest. Nothing but the truth, yeah. Nothing but the truth, yeah. Honesty, CJ, honesty. CJ, honesty, CJ, honesty. CJ, honesty. Just being honest. Nothing but the truth.
Welcome to another episode of
CJ Honesty.
And today, on behalf of Father's Day for Sunday, this episode is called The Impact of a Good Father. And the scripture for today is Titus chapter 2, verse 2. That aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience. And I think that kind of just speaks for itself. If you just base your moralities off of that, as a father, I think you do fine.
Yeah.
And you want to introduce the guest that we have on today, Christina?
Yeah, this is my family, my cousin Richard Wright, who is a humble Christian man and a devoted husband and father. He lives in Allen, Texas, with his beautiful, loving, compassionate, and supporting wife, Latoya, and with his 3 children. He has served in youth ministry as an Awana teacher and small group leader. He also currently serves in a special needs ministry at his church alongside his wife and life group family. He is an engineer with degrees from North Carolina, A&T State University, and the University of Michigan. He loves technology and encourages young people to pursue STEM fields. And Richard was raised primarily by a single mother in a surrounding village and wonder what type of father he would be. He doesn't count himself as a model father, but he is willing to share some lessons with us on his journey as becoming the father he is today. So welcome and thank you for coming on our podcast.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. As I said, I'm very humbled, very happy to be here. A little nervous, but I'll shake that off. It's all good. I really am happy to be here, and this is an important subject, and I'm happy to discuss and definitely keep it real. So.
Oh yeah, we definitely gonna keep it real.
Yeah, we just keep it real. We just keep it just like it's just a regular conversation.
With a touch of Jesus Christ in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what was your feeling when you had your first child, the very first time? What was that feeling? Can you tell us about that moment?
Yeah. So, like when I found out that we were expecting, it was I was excited. I was happy. And actually very grateful. One of the things that I had learned was that, it's not easy for everyone to have children. And so we were blessed to be able to have our first, and there was a whole process with that. And it was just amazing the way that, when I heard the news, when Latoya shared the news with me, my wife, I was, kind of smiling from ear to ear. You have all kinds of thoughts, but one of the things that stood out is after a while, I started to wonder about what type of father I would be. And part of that just comes from, being raised by a single mother. I had access to my father, my biological father, had a stepfather along the way. But I was kind of, had a little bit of self-doubt, and ended up reaching out to, my mother and some other people and saying, hey, I have this doubt. I was vulnerable enough to share that with my wife and said, hey, this is exciting, but at first it was kind of tempered with, the doubt. But man, once my little man got here, well, then of course, I found that it was a boy, and, I think most dads are very, happy to understand that, they're expecting a boy, you're looking forward to a son. But once he got here, it was just, it was amazing. It was a feeling that, you just don't understand until you're a parent. And it's kind of like at that point, you begin to understand the type of love that your parents had for you, and it's a different type of love, you know.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I can't wait to be a parent. I can't. Yeah, I bet it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It is a great feeling. I will tell you guys, don't let anybody rush you into it. Let the Lord have
Yeah.
His way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are definitely some things to think about, you know, in becoming a parent. First and foremost, well, not first and foremost, but one of the top things is like, who are you going to be parenting with? Okay, you're going to be a father, you're
Hmm.
going to be a mother, but who are you going to be parenting with? You know, if this, you know, hopefully the circumstances of marriage, but if it's not, and you're going to be in a co-parenting situation, what's the character of that parent? What's their background? How were they raised?
Hmm.
So yeah, one of the things that I hear preached a lot now is, hey, look, we need to stop rolling up on couples and asking them, when y'all going to have some kids? You
Mm.
know, because
Yeah.
that's like the popular question. It's kind of like, okay, you're asking that question, you know, perhaps it should be front ended with, do you guys want kids, or do you guys feel like you're ready for kids? Because, um, there's a process in terms of, um, making sure that you're ready spiritually, first of all,
Hmm.
emotionally, financially, all kinds of things. So don't let anybody rush you guys into it. That's for sure, because they're gonna smile and say, "Oh, he's so cute," but at the end of the day, going home with you. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's going home with you. And one of the things that I found out at the hospital, bruh, Dad was changing the first several diapers because Mom can't.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, we took a little class or whatever to get ready for it,
Hmm.
happily. But I was the first one to have to put the diaper changing skills to test, right there in the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
And you got you. I had my wife watching me. I had the nurse watching me, and I'm sitting there trying to make sure I get it right. Um, just some things you don't think about. But yeah,
Hmm.
don't let anybody rush you guys. I would say to anyone, don't let anybody rush you into feeling like, okay, don't succumb to outside expectations of you becoming a parent, I would say.
Mm.
Because like I said, you have to deal with whatever God gives you. um
Yeah.
so and He gives you the strength to deal with it as well. So yeah,
Mm.
don't be in a hurry.
Yeah. I always think about my age though. I'm like,
Well,
okay,
okay,
now I'm almost 30. I'm almost
i should
30. I'm
say
like, okay.
I should say don't be, I would say, my advice would be, kind of don't be in a hurry unnecessarily. you know
Mhm.
uh we got married at let me see, I was 29, and we had our first one at 31, I think 30, 31. So,
Mhm.
Mm.
you know, um, that's something that, that's something that factors into parenthood too, in terms of what stage of your life you become a parent, what maturing process, have you gone through up to that point,
Mhm.
what lessons have you learned, um, and where are you in your life, spiritually, emotionally, financially, because all those things factor into your ability to be a responsible parent, and to be a good parent. So yeah, those things factor into play. So I mean, if you're the one that's pushing a timeline, that's fine. I'm just saying, there's definitely sort of a, I don't know if we want to call it tradition, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, as you get up in age, or as you've been married for a while, it's like, okay, hey, when are you guys gonna have kids? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
do I have a support system? Am I living near family? Am I living away from family? All those things kind of factor in. So,
Mhm.
Mm.
like for us,
Yeah.
we live in the Dallas area.
Mhm.
Mm.
I have no immediate family in the area. My wife has an aunt and a couple cousins. Beyond that,
Mm.
we have a few close friends that we either went to college with, or now we have good relationships because of church or work. So
Mhm.
all those things factor in. So you know what you're doing.
Thinking about having different kids, or whether you have one or multiple. If you have like multiple, I hear this saying that you don't raise every child the same. You do different things with different ones.
Mhm.
Would you say that's true?
Yes and no. On the one hand, you want to teach all. I think as a parent, I feel like I want to teach all my kids the same values and morals, right? I want them to understand, about Christ. I want them all to, accept Christ. In fact, all of them have. Last year, our youngest did,
Oh,
and
wow, one.
and it's amazing. It's a blessing. So you want
Yeah.
them to all get the same, set of values and underpinned lessons, but at the same time, the approach definitely has to be different because I mean,
Mhm.
we have to remember, and one of the things I had to learn and remember is they're people, they're individuals. They're not the same, just like you and I aren't the same, just like the two of you aren't the same, right?
Mhm.
So you have to account for those differences. And so what I've had to learn, and with a good bit of help from my wife, is our approach to each child has to be different because they're different. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses. They each have their own goals, their own struggles. One may be
Mhm.
strong, say academically, the other one needs a little bit more help, whereas one may
Mhm.
be more outgoing, another one might be reserved. And so you kind of respond to that.
Yeah.
And they all, it's amazing because kids, especially when they're little, they have no filter. You know how they'll say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reason why they have no filter is because they pick up on everything. It's natural for them, I think, to not have, any pretenses. They're not putting up any front. They have no reason not to be themselves. But by the same token, they can tell when you're being genuine and when you're not. And
Mhm.
so part of being genuine is, being present and, just kind of observing,
Yeah.
making sure that you kind of understand the differences between the two. Um,
Mhm.
Now, one of the things that when it comes to making sure that um, it's kind of like you want to attend to the specific needs that one has, that each one has, but you
Mm.
also kids naturally compare. How much attention am I getting versus another? So,
Mm.
Yeah.
spreading that around becomes important. But yeah, you want them to have the same values, but they're all different. They're all different.
Mm.
They communicate differently. They care about different things. Some are more affectionate than others.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and you learn those things. But I think the biggest key is you don't learn those things without investing time, paying attention, and being
Mhm.
being present, like in the moment.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow.
So when it comes to that's raising the children, right? So, but when it comes to being a father,
Yeah.
what is the most effective way you think to when you discipline them?
It's very different in that way too, because each one, you'll find that I find that each of my children respond to different disciplines, and so you have to find out their motivation, what
Mhm.
motivates them to to be obedient, what you know they have different responses to to correction, and
Mm.
so one may learn a particular lesson on the first try, like, okay, I get it, I'm not supposed to do that, I won't do it again. Another,
Mhm.
okay, we're on, we're on lesson 38 of the same
Yeah.
Yeah.
same lesson,
Yeah.
right? And so
Mhm.
it does take a little bit of patience, but I would say the most important thing in being effective is following through. If
Mhm.
you're gonna
Mm.
correct, when
Mhm.
we correct, it's important to follow through because kids notice the pattern. If you saying, hey, you're gonna get this consequence, or you're gonna have to do this chore or something to make a situation right behind discipline, and you don't
Mm.
follow through,
Mhm.
then your words begin to mean
Mhm.
not much.
Mhm.
um on the other side of that, what that makes you do as a parent too is it makes you or as a father, it makes me sort of, you choose your battles. You don't discipline over every little thing.
Mhm.
um
Mm.
and one of the things, as my kids have gotten older, I've learned to, in terms of discipline, you know when they're young, and I say when they're younger, toddler age, elementary
Yeah.
school age, or early elementary school age, you're more telling in the discipline, right? Then as
Mm.
Mhm.
they've learned, and you're trying to reinforce, then you start to ask questions, you start asking these open-ended questions to kind of test and see if they remember the lessons they learned from the past. So like, hey, so what made you think this was a good idea? And then you just got to
Mm.
listen, because that gives
Mhm.
you an opportunity to understand their thought process, and you can kind of really identify. And what that, I think what that does is now you have a dialogue, and you have a child that's willing to speak to you open and honestly. And once you're able to kind of identify, okay, hey, I can see where you went wrong. Now it's okay. So what do you think you could do better next time? And so you get them involved in a thought process instead of kind of spoon feeding a correction every time. So that I think that's so being, I would say being, consistent, following through, and, making sure that, you kind of not just tell them what to do, but to ask questions, give choices. Sometimes they'll have a choice of consequences, like, hey, you can go do this thing over here, you can go do this thing over here, but either way, I'm either going to get my car washed or I'm going to get my lawn mowed. Which one is it going to be? So yeah, those things are important, I think. Oh, one thing I will say, you talked about correction and discipline. As big observation, I spoke about earlier about, the importance of knowing and understanding who you're parenting with. You have to have conversations about discipline styles, because at the end of the day, you were raised in two different homes. I was raised in a different home from my wife, and it's important to have conversations along the way about what your beliefs are in terms of discipline. One parent might not believe in spanking. Another parent might believe in, you know what, I'm gonna get you every time, and so those differences have to kind of be worked out so that you have common ground. And then, from a disciplinary standpoint, you got to watch out for the mom said I could or dad said I could, pitting one parent against the other when they're asking for permission too, right? So it's important to have communication with, your spouse or your whoever, or if you're co-parenting, it's important to have good conversations about, hey, how are we going to discipline? What do we really believe in? And reconcile where there are differences and come to agreement. Because if there's disagreement, there could be a tendency for those disagreements to come out in front of the children when it comes time to discipline. And like I said before, the kids are very astute. They pick up on that and like, oh, wait a minute, mom doesn't agree with dad on this. They can see that we have a different approach. And that's how kids start to learn who to go ask for what, or what, which boundaries can they press with one parent versus the other. But if you get on the same page, then, it's stronger. It's funny. It's like, one of the first questions I have for my kids is like, well, look, what did your mother say? Because, and that's their reminder of, hey, if you've already talked to your mother, she and I have agreed that if she says no, I'm going to honor that. And so that's just one example of one of those types of, parenting and discipline agreements that you have to have to be effective. And it takes time. We weren't always that way. We had disagreements. We had some disagreements in front of the kids early on, and then we learned how to, okay, I disagree in this scenario, but we're going to address this not in front of the kids, but in our own space. Maybe not right now, but maybe later. Okay, hey, look, we were cutting across each other in here. Let's huddle up. What can we do next time to present sort of a united, front in a discipline? Yeah. Hard lesson for me to learn, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very important to discuss, like the disciplinary methods. Because it's a lot of nowadays kids. I work with kids too. I'm a teacher, so I see how they are in school, and some of them, I'm like, what? Okay, some of them need the old school way, but some people don't believe that now. I've heard some methods that parents use now. Some parents don't believe in spanking and all that, or taking away something they love from a child. I've had that happen to me when I was a child. I couldn't watch TV or something, but it's not. I think it is detrimental when you take away like sports or something. Like, I don't agree with that, or whatever they love. So
we've had some situations. We've had some situations. Like, removal of privileges is definitely something that we believe in. Now, so like if it's this is what I was saying earlier, where it becomes important to understand like what motivates a child or what their currency is. for one, is like, okay, look, take my phone away, whatever. I got these video games over here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're, taking away privileges, you have to understand the ones that are really going to, resonate with them. But then when it comes to those things that are more important, like sports, we've had situations where we've had to discipline. First season, my son played flag football. He was like 4 or 5. We sat him down a game because he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do in preschool. So, went to the coach, who was somebody that we go to church with and we trusted. And I said, hey, coach, difficult decision. Is it okay with you if we sit him for this game?
Mm-hmm.
You have other players. Can we sit him for this game because we're trying to teach a lesson here? He said, sure. But you're right in that, the balance in taking away something that they love or something that they're participating in, that's an organization with other people and they've made a commitment, whether it be like my daughter's in dance, my son's on the track team. It's like, okay, hey, we don't want to penalize the other folks that they have commitments to on their team. So like if your team is dependent on you to show up, okay, hey, we don't want to do that. So we'll come up with something else in those areas. But yeah, it's a balance. It's a balance.
Yeah, I think it would be a balance. I get what both of you was saying. But when I think about it, I mean, even schools, though, I see, Christina, what you were saying with how it can be detrimental to them or traumatizing, I guess. But at the same time, it's like even schools, they say if you don't get a certain amount of grades, like at least a C plus, you can't even be on a team anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so that kind of plays the same role, If you're not behaving or you're not meeting the standard that you should meet, why would you think you'll be able to do this right here?
Yeah.
Well, I can see that causing resentment from the child, though. We could say, oh, they'll get over it. But like that could be something that they want to do. That could be helping their mental health. I'm big on mental health. So that, I don't know. It depends on the child, though. It's an individual basis. So I would just go based on the child and and just see how it affects them.
Yeah. I think you can definitely, parenting is like, until you're a parent, you've never been a parent before. You don't have experience. So as I mentioned, it's a constant learning process. I think, you definitely can try an interruption. Like I wouldn't say, okay, hey, first game of the season, you can't participate. I've talked to your coach and you're out for the rest of the season. I would say, yeah, you don't want to. Your first step is probably not to take, or at least our first step wasn't to, take something away completely. But hey, this is going to get disrupted for a while because you're not doing the things that you need to do to maintain the privilege that you have. Because we're going to remind you that whatever you're participating in, it is a privilege, and you have to hold up your end of the bargain, right?
Yeah, I think even as adults, the NFL players and the basketball players, are certain things that they can't do behavioral wise, or they'll be like cut off from the team, or some kind of strike against them.
Yeah.
But you want to ask that next question?
Yeah. What like you mentioned that you have a child with special needs, or you work with children with special needs. Like, what is it like being a special needs parent?
Oh, I promise you, this could be a whole podcast.
That is probably a whole podcast.
Yeah. In fact, we have some of the one of the families that works with is in our life group and works with us in the special needs ministry. She started a podcast. Specifically, it's called Not Your Mama's Autism or something. Not the sorry, this is your podcast. I don't want to plug other people. But
no, that's fine.
But yeah, it is so to be a special needs parent. So our oldest son has special needs. He lives with high functioning autism and ADHD. And at first, you have a child, the child is born, and then you discover something's not right, and it manifests itself in some kind of way. And when it manifested to us, we're in, problem solving mode. Okay, hey, let's go see someone. Well, first it was, let's talk to teachers. Let's see someone. And then you continue to see symptoms, but you don't really have a solution because you don't have, like we went through a long period where we didn't have firm diagnoses. In fact, it wasn't diagnosed, I think until it was like 8 or something. Yeah, about 8. But at first it was isolating because as a parent, there's a lot of social pressure, that we feel and we put on one another, whether we realize it or not, to be like a good parent. I want to be a good parent. And then when you start to have experiences that are like, okay, wait a minute, this is difficult, and the first thing pops in your head is like, this is not normal. And while you're telling yourself it's not normal, you start to wonder if any other families are dealing with it. You start to, I say it can be isolating because of either behaviors or trials or tribulations that you experience early going. You wonder how accepting family will be, how understanding friends will be, and so we really kind of just went into the shell as a family. And it wasn't until we were having a conversation with someone and they kind of recognized some things that we were just kind of hinting at, and said, "Oh, our child has ADHD," and they went to our previous church. Once we found one other family that we already knew and identified with, that were special needs and were trying to figure things out, then it was kind of like, okay, it's just a breath of fresh air because you don't feel like you're the only one. Because the enemy will come tell you, you're the only ones. You're the only ones dealing with this. There's no solution for this. You might, don't let other people see, what's going on. Don't ask for help, so that's how it was at first. It takes a lot of time and energy because you're trying to figure it out. And in this age of Google, I coined this term called, I say we have Google PhDs, because as all these things are going on and you're learning all these different terms from doctors and therapists and teachers, you're learning this language, you start Googling everything. And so you do this huge body of research hoping to be able to apply it. And it can be all consuming, so much to the point where you're like, whose advice do I trust? Do I trust what I'm hearing from this specialist, or do I trust what I've read over 20 different articles on Google, right? I would say that it does make you question your parent. The enemy, like I said, the enemy creeps in, says, "Hey, what kind of parent are you? You're not dealing with this right." And to anyone who's a special needs parent, I would say you're not dealing with it right if you're ignoring it, if you're not trying to find some solutions as to what's going on with your child. It can stress the household, when you have a special needs child, because that child can, at various points in time, require more attention. The other children see that and they start to wonder, hey, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Why is this person getting all the attention during this season? It's not always that way. And then, even though love and relationships aren't a zero-sum game, it's hard for children not to fall into like a scarcity mindset where it's like, okay, well, if dad has all his attention over here, then what am I supposed to do? So
we gotta wrap this one up.
We gotta wrap this piece up. Okay.
Yeah, but let's leave our minds on that. We'll continue on part 2.
Okay.
So
that sounds good.
This has been another episode of
CJ Honesty.
Peace. And God bless.
Just so you know, there's nothing but the truth.